I'm Kyle Malnati, your host of the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. At Calibrate, we exist to help people create generational wealth through real estate. My personal mission is to encourage, empower, and educate you by sharing best practices from business leaders that are proven winners. Broadcasting from the Mile High City, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. We're on a huge kick here where we're interviewing some of the most recent 30 under 30 honorees by REALTOR Magazine. 2021 honoree Katrina Thomas with Compass is our guest expert today. Katrina, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. And, as one of the older 30 under 30s, I'm almost a 30 that's now 40, not quite yet, but almost there. I'm kind of, it's kind of the old guard, but I love interviewing 30 under 30s because such a huge accolade, such a coming of age honor. REALTOR Magazine, obviously national. There's 600, 700, 800 people that apply. Only 30 make it. Congratulations to you. And I have to share with our audience that may be younger, that think of us as 30 under 30s, is that everything works out great. We never have a problem. Every day is a ray of sunshine, and we just get contracts closed in our sleep, and we get new listings every day. It didn't start that way for you. You shared with me that you actually didn't close a deal the first year you were in the business, and it really took you a long time to grow your clientele. And let's just kind of share with the audience what that was like. If you can go back in time and kind of mentally think about, all right, the first month or two, you're like, all right, it's going to take a little while. And then it's like month 11, month 12. How do you persevere through that? What are some lessons you learned? And how did you really kind of formulate your business?
Okay, that is a great question. So I would start off with saying that, one thing I learned is when you start off, you should kind of interview multiple brokerages. And I feel like that was something I didn't do. I found one and I went there, and I just didn't have proper guidance to start off with where I should get started, because when you're fresh out of real estate school and you've just gotten licensed, they don't teach you anything about how to build your clientele, how to build your business. So I had to find all of that out. And once I had switched brokerages about, I would say 7 to 8 months, that's when I started kind of building my business and started selling homes. But it did take a while. I had to keep going. I had to keep marketing myself and really just marketing in every way, whether it was social media or door knocking, cold calling. And I have gotten sales from cold calling as well. I know people don't do it as much anymore, but I've gotten sales from that as well. But really just continue on and just like finding out what works for you. But I think it's more common than we think that people don't get sales right away within their business. It takes time to build. But once you get your first and second and third sale, it just continues going from there. You just have to kind of keep going. And like I was letting you know, I was a dual agent when I first started off as well. So it took me a while to kind of go full time and get into the swing of things. But I was really determined. So I was just like, okay, I think people have like a plan A and a plan B. I'm just like, this is plan A and it has to work. So you might change your tactics to reach your goal, but don't change the goal.
Katrina, such good advice. One of my good friends that's a 30 under 30, a few years older than me, but he's from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. His name is James Nellis. James will say that what ends up happening for all realtors in the first year is you sort of exhaust your best friend, you exhaust your mom, your dad, your uncle, your auntie, that real quick list of people who are like, all right, I'll sell a property I happen to be selling, and you're now licensed, so I'll hire you. And then pretty quickly it's like, how do you, that next step of getting people that, maybe friends of friends, but are a little bit more cautious, a little bit more scrutiny when they hire someone. Right. That's the real test.
Right. I agree. And that's so true. If you have like friends and family members selling at the time and they're, willing to work with you, I think that's great. When I started, I was about, I would say 25 and 26. A lot of my friends were not purchasing as much back then. A lot of them weren't ready, but they're getting there to that point now where I'm helping a lot of them. So I think that's a great idea too. And just like I said, just continue marketing yourself.
Yeah, it's really interesting, just the fall off pretty quickly of where you kind of exhaust through that low hanging fruit. And then it's like, all right, how are we going to build a business that's sustainable? So you shared with Realtor Magazine that not only are you working a sphere of influence, but you get half of your business from social media, Katrina. How does that work? That's amazing.
So I just feel like I've always been really tech savvy. I like social media. Things have changed now so much with marketing. So, people used to put ads in the newspaper and even like on the bus benches and things like that. But I just don't feel you have to find out what works for you. And I feel like helping when you can help clients and prospective clients on social media with tips on how to purchase a home or sell a home is and provide helpful, knowledgeable information for them. That's very helpful and that helps to build clientele and people appreciate that and it gets shared and people go and tell a friend even if they haven't used you. They just say, this is the expert in this area because they can see that you're on social media and you're providing knowledge to others. So I feel like that helps a lot. And then it also showcases the clients I've already assisted and clients closing, and I share my reviews there. So I feel like it's just really helpful because for right now, it's a lot of millennial home ownership, and millennials are on social media. We're on social media. So I feel like it's just a great tool. And it's, if you want to do like paid ads on there or something, you can, but it's for the most part, it's a free tool as well to get your name out there and also just stay in front of the clientele and stay in front of your area and your market.
What's your favorite social media platform?
I like Instagram.
Awesome. Good. I like Instagram too. So I think of towards the end of the year, especially on December 31st, a lot of people are posting their top 9. That's kind of the common thing that people do. If you had to think of maybe not your top 9 strategies, but some of the posts that tend to be the best received. And again, this is not a personal post, but a post that you're putting out there that's advice or information. What are some of the things if someone's just getting started as a realtor, is kind of rookie tips for realtors on Instagram? What do you find the most successful, and what types of posts are you getting the best feedback or commentary on? Or
So,
stories, not just posts. Sorry, it could be stories too.
of course, no problem. Um, I would say one thing, even for agents who are just starting off, you want to show people that you are an active agent. We have so many agents. You want to show people you are out actively working with clients. Even at first, maybe you might not be working as much with clients, but you need to show people that you're out working, you're out showing homes. So that's one thing that is very helpful. Home showings and home listings, posting those and letting people see what's on the market, how things are priced, and just you showing those to the people in your area. Even sometimes, like, it might not be a person that's looking right now, but they'll say, this is a nice home. I'm going to keep this agent in mind when I'm ready, or I'm going to share this with a friend. Another tactic I would say is some information on the process, like some things buyers should know. The other day I did like a definitions list of definitions first time buyers should know. So it had like credit on there and appraisal and home warranty. And people find that really, really helpful. I think that, we think that everyone already knows this information, but as a first time buyer, like, they're looking for all of the information they can receive. Another one I would say is like a market update. So whichever area you're in, I think it's really good to share market updates with the public and strategies. Not too much, but strategies you're using for your clients. Like right now, it's really competitive in most areas. I know where we are in the DC area, it's very competitive. It's really a seller's market. So just sharing, how you can assist buyers with getting into their home in such a market, and how you can help them with being competitive with their offers and securing their home. I think that's very helpful as well, and just what services you can provide to the buyers.
I love that your Instagram is so clean. It's one of the better, as I've got it printed out here in front of me. It's one of the more clean, concise Instagram pages I've seen. And you're right. That first post that I'm seeing here is some key terms all buyers need to know, and you list them alphabetical order appraisal, contingency, credit, earnest money deposit, home warranty, recording fees, title insurance. And yeah, for us in the real estate industry, duh, like you pass a licensing exam, of course, like we know that, like, it's not earth shattering, but if you've never bought a house before, you're like, what the heck is a
What is
contingency?
this? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I imagine you probably got a lot of good feedback there. And then the second one right next to it that I really like is you posted about thinking of renovating to increase your resale value. And you talk about the primary bathroom and how that really should be this oasis of serenity. And like, it's got to really be, those pictures have got to be perfect. And then the kitchen. And again, things that are somewhat determined. We've seen a lot of conversation about that over decades, that your kitchen and your primary bathroom are two important places, but you frame it to an audience that again is not used to seeing that and is maybe tired of hearing mom and dad say that, and tired of the house that they grew up in or whatever. So good advice, and I really like it. One of the other things I see is you've got this post that says the 3 things millennial home buyers are searching for.
Mhm.
So do you want to share some of those? You've got home offices, pools and hot tubs. And what were some of the feedback that you got from that post?
Oh, everyone loved it. I mean, even clients that are like some of my clients that have just closed and, some of their friends, everyone loved the post. It gave them ideas with what they can do with their home. And I think like with the pandemic, a lot has changed with clients wanting to add a lot more in their homes instead of going out to like the gym and going out to the office. We started doing so much more at home. And even though things are kind of normalizing now a little more, I think people are kind of sticking with it and kind of enjoying just being at home, whether it's working from home or having their home gym. And even another one on there was like hot tubs and pools, which I'm doing myself. So I think it was really helpful to give people that vision of what they can add to their own home, even in smaller spaces. Like I know here we have a lot of townhomes here. So even what people can do in, homes that are not single family homes.
Really cool. It's great advice. And it's just, you can just tell you're having a lot of fun on your social media. So when going back to that first year in real estate, at what point did you feel like quitting? And at what point did you realize, okay, this is going to work out for me? For that rookie realtor that's out there, that's listening to a couple of 30 under 30s, where was that moment you were like, all right, this may not be the business for me? And then when did you cross the threshold and you're like, all right, I think it's going to work?
I never had that moment where I felt like quitting. So I think I'm very like strong-willed, and I feel like in this business you have to be very strong-willed and just determined. And like I said, if you have a goal in mind and you are passionate about it, when you're passionate about a goal and actually, helping people in the field you're in, you can you don't mind if it takes a little time for you to get your business started. You're not going to, I wasn't going to just say, this is not working, I'm just going to go to the next business. I was passionate about it. So sometimes you may have to change your tactics or change what you're doing or how you're going about reaching that goal, but you don't have to say, okay, this is not for me.
Yeah, it really, I think if you are determined to make something work, it will happen. It may not happen in your timing that you think that you set out the plan at first, but it will absolutely work. And kudos to you. You mentioned earlier that you made some cold calls. That's how I built my business, was making cold calls to people, because as a 22-year-old, I'm like, none of my buddies really have significant wealth. And, I want to do more listings, and I want to do more work with more buyers. And so I made a lot of cold calls, and that's humbling
It is.
for someone that is scared to death of the idea of making a prospecting phone call. Katrina, what advice would you have for them? What experiences did you have? Was it as bad as you thought it would be? Just give us the full detail.
I would say some advice that I have is to have a script, practice your script, practice some of the objections, some of your answers to objections that you might receive. Practice that as well. And I feel like cold calling is, not that bad. You're going to get some interest, and then you might not, everyone is not going to be interested. But I think the best thing to keep in mind is not to take it personal. you're doing your job, you're getting yourself out there, and someone will appreciate it. Everyone will not be interested, but you will have some that are interested, and it will help you build your business. And one thing I'll say is, like I was saying, I was a dual career agent. So when I was doing my cold calling, it was usually on Saturdays. So I would probably do like a few hundred calls on Saturdays. And my second sale, which was a $700,000 sale, was from cold calling.
There you go. I mean, you're talking about it. That's a big deal for a first-time agent. And so if there's some motivation there for you, obviously the dollars are there. The other thing that's really cool too, as a real estate agent, is obviously we love to work with friends and we love to work with family. I like creating new friends too. And some of my best clients have come from a cold call that I never would have expected that we would have become friendly with each other. And that's the really cool thing on the other side of it is I've got a client that I'm closing 4 deals with this year as an investor. And by looking through that, these properties, the sale was $4 million. And then the subsequent exchange properties were all $1 million to $2 million. So, I mean, this is a big client of mine. It all started 13 years ago with a cold call. Pretty cool stuff.
Gosh, that's amazing. And I think that shows as well how, continuing to follow up and keeping in touch with your clients, that goes a long way as well, because for 13 years, you never kind of just like let the client go. You keep in touch with them and even just check in with them, continue providing information to them as well. That's helpful. It helps you to continue building relationships with these clients and getting repeat business. So that's great.
As we talk about outreach and prospecting or social media, all of those things come back to this acronym that I came up with a few years ago when I was interviewing a social media guru. It's just one of the cool things that happens in a podcast where I just was listening to her and I was summarizing some things. I'm like, this is awesome. So the acronym is CARE, C-A-R-E, and the C is consistent. The A is authentic. The R is reach, and the E is engage. And so anytime whether it's making cold calls or sending out a broadcast email or putting an Instagram story together, people aren't going to listen to you if you're not consistent. If you don't show up with some regularity and be like, all right, well, it's flash in the pan. Everybody wants to be a real estate agent. If you're not authentically yourself, if you're rigid or you feel like you're like selling something you don't believe in, people will see that from a mile away. Obviously reach, you've got to grow your audience because we all have auntie and uncle that will listen to us, but at some point you've got to get out of that immediate circle. And then engagement, don't post and ghost. And I think it's really important to make sure that you're constantly continuing that conversation.
It's so true. I think people have to see things a certain amount of times before they're like, okay, I want to go with this person, or I'm interested in this person. And that take us back to what we were talking about before with, even not receiving business right away. People want to see it for a while and see that you're serious and see that you're consistent, to want to work with you.
Yeah. So Katrina, I've got to ask you, because I think it's really important for people that may be apprehensive about applying for the 30 under 30 honor. Were you nervous? Did you feel like, whatever, I'll just put this in and maybe if it works out? Is it something you had thought about for years? Is it something that, maybe you learned about a few months prior? How much did you plan for your application, and what does it take, do you believe, to actually, again, cross that threshold from applicant to finalist to actually part of the 30 under 30 honorees? What advice would you give to someone that's maybe thinking about doing that next year?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say for myself, it's definitely just an amazing honor and something I wanted probably for a few years now. I started when I was 26 and I'm 29 now, so it's my last year before reaching 30. So it was something it was an award that I really wanted. I've received other awards, but this one was just really, really important to me. I would not say that I did a lot of planning, or I wouldn't say I did a lot of planning at all for my application. So, and I think it worked out to my benefit. going back to what you said about like being authentic and just being yourself, I probably applied like on the last day, on the last day, probably just, it might have been like within the last few hours before, before submissions were due. And I think it really helped because it was in my mind like, okay, you need to go on and apply. But I was just so busy with everything, with work. And so that day I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the last day. Let me go on here and apply. And like, I wasn't even sitting at home. I'm out getting my hair done or something. So, so I was,
It's amazing, not to recommend procrastination,
no.
but it is amazing how things do authentically come through when you're not sitting mulling over something for months at a time. It's like, this is me, here's my answers. And we've actually done on this podcast and on other different webcasts we've done, we've had honorees on that give suggestions about different things that have worked out for them. And it's amazing. Everybody has a different journey. Some people applied. A good buddy of mine who's in your area, Harrison Beecher, he applied, I think 5 or 6 times before he got it. I applied 2 times before I got it. Obviously, if you're 29, you know.
Mhm. I think I had applied once as well, but I had done more planning that time, and really sat and wrote out these answers and took time to plan them. This time I'm like, I'm answering the questions just like you said, authentically, almost like I would be answering them to a friend. And I think that really helped because people could really get to know me and get to know me kind of like on a personal level. And I feel like that's the way that I am with my business as well, just providing like really personable service. So I think that really helps a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think that people will understand if you're operating from your true genuine self, that they'll understand that you're the type of person that they need to work with. There's so many other people who are trying to act like someone different, and I think that that's the most important thing with any, whether it's curating your business and getting new clients and or some sort of honor, some sort of application that's going to be a big deal. And I think that's really important advice. So you had mentioned, Katrina, in one of your earlier answers that scripts were something that were really important as you were attempting to make cold calls. I believe, and scripts sound weird. It's like, oh, I'm going to rehearse something. I'm like a robot. Like, I'm not going to be authentic. And we've been talking a lot about authenticity, but I think scripts give you a framework for not freezing in the moment. And you should have scripts for if you're hanging out at the pool, if you belong to a neighborhood pool and you've got, your Katrina sells real estate polo on, or you've got whatever it is, someone knows that you're in real estate. They're asking you the same questions. They're asking you, how's the market? They're asking you, oh gosh, can a buyer even get a deal right now? Can you believe that this is happening, that happening? So let's talk about the power of scripts and maybe some of the things that you think about. And I really look at this as premeditating what is going to happen. And a lot of athletes believe in visioneering or just envisioning how they're going to be successful. How do you make scripts not feel robotic?
So I feel like I'll kind of like write them down, or I'll get a good idea of the gist of it. I'm not going, I wouldn't recommend like reading from a script line for line, but you at least have the idea and your topics of what you are going to be saying in different scenarios. Like you said, if you're out and about networking, you want to have, almost like a script for that. You're not reading from anything, but you kind of know what people are going to ask you, and you want to have answers to these questions. Even as they say, like an elevator pitch, you have times where you're not talking to someone for a long period of time, but you still want it to be just as what you're saying to be just as effective in these short time frames, in these short conversations. So I would say just by, still being yourself and letting your personality shine through, and just having like a gist of what you are going to be saying and the information you would like to provide, and really how you can assist a client.
Yeah, one of the cooler things that I've learned about being a media spokesperson for our state board of realtors, the Colorado Association of Realtors, is that they say that whether it's in politics or someone that's a spokesperson, is they sort of have they have speaking topics. They've got little bullet points of things like if they ever get off topic, or if someone tries to ask a gotcha question, they're always going back to these 3 main things. And it's just, it's a good reminder. And so I think as people think of scripts, think of it as an outline, because I think that's a little bit more approachable than maybe like I'm reading, but it's really important. And I'm glad that you talked about that. All right, ready for our rapid fire last 3 questions. They're deep, so I hope you're ready, Katrina.
I'm ready.
Okay. Our brokerage that I started in 2016 with my wife, Calibrate Real Estate, as well as this podcast, uses the word calibrate. Now, for those that might think they kind of know, but that's a funny word. The reason I chose calibrate is it's a verb. I'm all about action. I love, making things happen as a realtor. And the word calibrate quite literally is defined as making adjustments. You have these experiments that you do, you get results, take some external factors, and then you allow that comparison to get to a better result the next time around. So you're taking data, you're saying, this is what I think is going to happen. You get that data and then you make adjustments. What do you do to calibrate your life on a daily basis? These could be routines. They could be ways you get yourself unstuck, way you get yourself out of a rut. What are some ways you calibrate your life on a daily basis?
That is a great question. I feel like there are a few different ways. One that I've learned over time is I'm really big on self-care and just taking time for myself and with my friends and family. And in our business, it's hard for a lot of realtors to do. And I feel like a lot of realtors, don't make time for themselves. So really having that healthy work-life balance is really important. And it, helps you to work more effectively as well. And it helps you to enjoy what you're doing more. So whatever it is that you enjoy, like for myself, within starting my day off early, I usually go to the gym first, and then I'll start work, come back, start work, and things like that. And it starts my day off on such a positive note. So I know that's one thing for me. And, even taking time to go and get massages and unwind. I think all of that really helps, and we need an outlet as well. The business, it can be stressful sometimes. It's worth it and it's rewarding, but it can be stressful at times as well. So we have to have some type of outlet and some type of balance as well. And I found that out, at first when I started out, and after I had switched brokerages and started getting much more business, I was busy all the time. I didn't really have too much of a work-life balance. But after getting the hang of everything and being able to do everything more efficiently and more time effective, I started getting a work-life balance in place. So I feel like that's really important for every realtor. Like, take some time to do things that you enjoy as well. Take some time for yourself. The other one I was going to say is also like taking time to like assess and reassess goals that you have, personal goals and, goals for your business as well. And setting a goal, when you set your goals, setting a reward for yourself once you reach these goals as well is really important, and it keeps you on track. And I think remembering why you want to reach these goals, what is the bigger purpose for these goals, that's a really important part for me as well. And I think it just, like I said, helps you stay on track and stay focused with the goals that you're looking to reach, whether it's personal or work related.
Yeah, great advice. And one of the things that I think is an important distinction, and you ran all the way through this, but I think it's really important to park for just a moment on it, is that when you're getting started, rookie realtors, you don't have a life. There is no life balance. Right. You do have to push down on the throttle because you're trying to lift something that's never been lifted before in your career. Mm-hmm. And so you do have to hustle like crazy until you get to a point. Then what happens is you get used to that. And what ends up occurring, and I see this with lots of 30 under 30s, they're like, I need a break. I haven't had a break in 15 months, or my spouse doesn't, ever have dinner with me anymore, like just whatever. There's some real hardship because you're used to going, you're used to redlining it, you're used to like getting it out there, and all of a sudden you don't realize that you've been going that hard for that long. So I completely agree with your advice. It's once you have achieved some things, you got to remind yourself, like, I'm doing this. This is a wonderful industry that has amazing opportunities, both financially, relationally, but I got to make sure I take some time for me every now and again. The person who's doing it for the first month and is like, oh, I got to take like every weekend off. It's like, no, you should be hosting every open house. You should be cold calling people. You should be like going crazy.
Yes, you have to, like you said, you really have to get your business off the ground and get your business up and running. So everything you have to put your all into your business, and I think that's I think that's the make or break in real estate, is putting your all into your business. You can have different tactics or different methods, but you're really competing with so many others and you're just starting off. So you really have to differentiate yourself and show people why they should work with you and why they should want to work with you. And also it's a learning period as well. You still want to show yourself as being a knowledgeable realtor who can assist them appropriately.
Yeah, two maybe comparisons that I think are really appropriate to what we're talking about is it's sort of like getting out of debt or losing weight. Most people kind of wander into getting into debt or wake up a year later and they're like, oh my gosh, I gained 25 pounds in the pandemic. And you're not going to wander your way out of losing some weight. You're not wandering your way out of debt. You've got to hustle. You've got to be active. You've got to be focused. It's like the only thing you think about. And that's how you overcome something like that.
That is so true. And I think, it goes both ways. In the beginning, you have to do so much to get your business started, but also as you start to become more, as you start to build, as your business starts to build and it's kind of already built, we have to remember to still keep some of these same hardworking tactics that we had before and some of these same methods that we had before that helped us to receive the business. I think sometimes we are already kind of where we want to be at the moment. We're like, okay, we can slow down and not do this as much anymore, but we should still keep up those same methods that we had in the beginning.
Absolutely. Okay. So my second question that I ask all of our guests is this idea of Dear Younger Me. It comes from a song that I really like. The author of the song is writing to themselves. If they could write a letter to themselves when they were younger, pass along some advice. And there's this juxtaposition where they're like, I'm not sure I want to give you advice because God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. You're like, I did these things and that's who I am now. But after some battle scars, after some experience, I think we'd all have to take a time machine back in time and say, what's the advice I wish I knew when I was 22? If you could write yourself a letter, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself when you were just getting started in your early 20s?
Oh, there's so many different pieces of advice. One thing I would say is just start. Like, I feel like with so many things, we need to just start. We kind of like try to wait for the right time, but at some point you just have to start. Sometimes the time is never 100% right. So I would say that that's something helpful even in real estate as well. Another thing I would say, and I always tell agents this when they ask me for advice and they're just getting licensed, is, like I was saying, interview with multiple brokerages and seeing which one fits your needs the best and can give you the most guidance, because you need that when you're starting off. So I always give that piece of advice. Also, just like being patient with do everything you can, but be patient with yourself and your business. Give your business time to take off and for, yourself to build business, and don't compare yourself to what others are doing. Like, focus on what you need to do and give yourself that patience and that grace to get your business off the ground. It takes a different amount of time for everyone. So you can't compare yourself to what you see, like what you might see other agents doing now on social media or, just in your area.
Yeah, I love your advice. And as I think about the last piece of advice that you gave, it reminds me of the classic quote that comparison is the thief of joy. And social media, I mean, you talk about like wanting to see everybody's highlight reel. It's all out there on social media. Right. And it reminds me of another piece of advice that I heard when I was just starting out is, compete, don't compare. Like, compete with yourself. And we're in this period right now where the Olympics are happening. We got all these Olympic trials going on, and people, I think that if you're a stud swimmer or if you're an amazing track athlete, most people are thinking about in that arena, how do I achieve my personal best? Because if I've got to try to achieve my personal best on a daily basis, and every time I get that, then, maybe I'm a world-class athlete. But if you're constantly looking around at other people like, oh, that person's so fast or whatever, you're not improving yourself. You're just acknowledging that they're very good at what they do.
Exactly. I completely agree with that. And lastly, I would just say, whether you're starting off brand new or even now, just, not being scared to put yourself out there and put your business out there for more opportunities and more exposure.
Yeah, putting yourself out there, especially for young agents, people that are new to the business, can be really difficult because they're worried about, you know, scrutiny, they're worried about commentary. And yeah, you know what, when you're brand new, you don't know a whole lot. So just acknowledge that and put yourself out there, because at some point it's going to work out. All right, final question is actually derived from that last question. I was interviewing my career coach on episode 5. We're way above 180 episodes now. So this is like the first couple of episodes. And Chris Oakley shared that in that Dear Younger Me question, he was a part of a mentoring group in his 20s. The leader of the group said, guys, and it was a guys group, you got to read this book, The Principle of the Path by Andy Stanley, which I'm reading right now. And as a recommendation by Chris. In that book, the exercise that Andy Stanley has the reader go through is you got to write your own obituary. And if you write your own obituary, it's a little bit morbid, but you know, that Stephen Covey, start with the end in mind. Then all of a sudden that becomes the path for your life, and you become more focused, more intentional, more purposeful about achieving the things that are important, about doing the right things to the people that are important to you. And tragically, a couple of years ago, Chris passed away. And as a way of tribute for him, I asked this question to all of our guests now, which is, what would you want your legacy to be, Katrina? And instead of an obituary, which feels like a newspaper columnist is kind of writing it from afar, or someone online is writing that, if you had a personal friend, if you had a family member, a loved one, deliver your eulogy, what would you hope that they would say, hopefully decades from now, about Katrina Thomas?
I love that question. It really digs into your purpose as not just a realtor, but a person as well. I would hope that something that would be in there about me is putting others first, helping to educate others, helping people build wealth. Just really putting other people first and really being able to help others in my community. And I feel like that's my goal now.
It's beautiful. And it's very much tied into our mission at Calibrate Real Estate. Our mission is that we exist to help people create generational wealth through real estate. And that's, something we worked on a long time with Chris before he passed away. He actually helped us create that on the podcast, which is a really cool listen if you haven't heard that episode. And it's just such a great way to end our show, Katrina, because in real estate, we have this ability to sit alongside someone in probably the most stressful time in their life, if they're doing it for the first time, or if they've owned a property for a really, really long time and it's their personal residence. There's a lot of dollars behind what you're doing for them. And we intersect at this very critical time. We're only there for a couple of months, maybe a couple of weeks, depending on the market. And I mean, that's a huge honor. It's a big responsibility. And I know that, I hope our listeners gain that this is a business that shouldn't be taken lightly. It's one that creates a big amount of wealth for someone. And it's really important to do it the right way.
Yes, I feel like it's really life-changing. And, one thing that I've heard before is some of my clients that I've helped purchase is that no one in their family has owned a home, and they've never thought it would be possible for them to own a home until I showed them some steps and they saw my social media and they felt it was possible for them. So I think just making people see that it's possible for each person and helping people build wealth is my main goal in mind.
That is so cool. It reminds me of if you've ever been at a graduation commencement and they'll ask people to stand up that they're the first generation of their family to ever graduate from college. And it's like, holy cow, like that's so amazing. And what a cool journey to be able to have these people like, I'm the first one to ever own a home in my family, to really change their family tree. I mean, that's just amazing work. Katrina, thank you thanks so much for sharing. Congratulations to you on being a 30 under 30 honoree for REALTOR Magazine this year. I'm excited to meet you in person. I've got to say before we go, how do people connect with you on Instagram, on social media, if they want to see what you're doing in the Maryland, in the Virginia, and the DC area?
Of course. You can find me on Instagram at Katrina Thomas _. Katrina, and then Thomas _ and I am there. I'll be, sharing some posts with my clients that are closing, some reviews, and also some tips for sellers and buyers.
Katrina, awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of our show. A big thanks, a big shout out to our podcast producer, Ann Russell, for making arrangements and making sure that I show up to the show and have information. I'm your host, Kyle Malnati, and as I love to say, Katrina, Ann, and I, we will see you around the neighborhood. Thanks everybody for listening in.
Thanks
Make sure to rate, subscribe, review, etc.